Hi, it's Clark on Temptress. Some time ago, we did, as part of our Show Us Your Dinghy series, a video on a cool little aluminum sailboat that Conrad built. If you think their dinghy was cool, the yacht is cooler. This is Tla Hla, and my really good friends Conrad and Meredith. What is Tla Hla?
Tla Hla is a Thomas Colvin design. The original one was called the Gazelle, so the design is known as the Colvin Gazelle. And it's a traditional light displacement schooner hull with a junk rig on the two main sails and a jib on a bowsprit.
That's very unique out here.
It is. There were actually about 850 of them built, I believe, last time I talked to Tom before he passed away, which is actually a very large number
Yeah, it actually
of
is.
boats. And most of them, a lot of them, backyard welders.
Yeah. I know there's two of his designs in the bay right now, which is something.
There's one right there.
Oh, a third one. Okay.
There's three here now. Yeah.
And how do you like the junk rig at sea?
It's different. It's a flat sail with full-length battens, bamboo battens, and it all hangs from a yard. The gaff, I guess you would call it on a gaff rig, but these go by the mast. They stick out in front of the mast, all of the yard and all of the battens and the boom. And it has sheets that go to the leech, to each batten at the leech from each side. So you can actually control the shape of the leech very, very well. But it takes some getting used to sailing. It's very, very convenient to operate, to handle short-handed. And I really love it for that reason. And every time we go out, we fiddle and futz and we learn a little bit more.
We both have the desire to live a less harmful existence, a low impact kind of life, and this gives us all of that opportunity. We use very little fuel besides the wind and the sun. We, thank goodness, get along well, so a small house is perfect for us. It keeps us busy. It helps us focus on like real life stuff, everyday stuff. You know, what is the weather? What is, what do we want to eat? We don't have to futz around with imagined complications. It's just the day-to-day kind of stuff that we deal with. So, yeah.
And that can get very real at times.
And it can get very real. Sometimes it's super simple and like, la, la, la. I put a shirt on, the sun's shining. And other times it's like, the window, however many knots, and we're sideways. And so it keeps life simple, but also exciting.
Well, let's do a walk of the boat. Let's start at one end and just talk about what is interesting until we get to the other pointy end.
Oh, yeah. Y'all are going to love this.
Then we'll do the same thing down below.
Okay.
Cool.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
What do you want to talk about, Conrad?
One of the first things I did as far as adding things to the boat was to put these davits on that hold our dinghy. Our dinghy is rather large and we have not that much deck space to put it on. So it requires that we have it on the davit. So I made these that are extremely rugged. Hopefully we'll be able to withstand a dinghy being filled with water if it ever happens. We've got a big drain in the dinghy. And then I built solar panels that can pivot and tilt. So we can aim them right at the sun and gain a lot from the very beginning in the morning till noon. And if it's a day like today and we're worried about charging, we can really aim it right towards where that sun is coming in. And those are really helpful for the small amount of real estate that we have for solar panels on this boat. We can't really have a big solar arch back here because the overhanging boom. So I stuck them out over there. Recently, I put a single sideband radio on the boat, which is a long-distance shortwave radio that allows me to get weather information, limited emails, and potentially make distress calls if I ever needed to over long, long distances. And with the metal boat, I didn't want to have any, wanted to minimize the RF inside the boat because it doesn't, the radio frequency that is bouncing around inside a metal boat, it makes a lot of noise in the radio. So I put my tuner outside and my short lead to my third mast antenna, which is, we haven't been to sea with that one yet, so we will have to see how it does. This here was something that we were researching wind vanes on the way down to the Bahamas a couple of years ago. And I had decided on Cape Horn wind vane because I liked its incredible simplicity in design and ruggedness. And I was talking to the designer who had never made one for this model of boat. And we were taking measurements, and I look over in the anchorage, and on the back of this boat named Temptress was this Cape Horn wind vane. And as it turns out, Clark decided to put a large solar arch on and remove the wind vane, and I ended up with it. I had to cut it down and re-weld it and make it fit, but here it is. We're very much looking forward to being able to leave the helm and not have to sit at the helm. Our autopilot never worked, and this one should work well to the wind. And also inside, I have a tiller pilot, a little small autopilot that just turns the servo pendulum oar on the wind vane, so we can also use electric autopilot through the chart plotter. We normally steer it with the helm. Hydraulic steering moves the rudder. But then we also have needed to use a tiller before, and we've set this up as a way to steer it just recently. We haven't finished the seat, which was going to fold down to sit on here when using the tiller. I put what's called a coxcomb set up here with a tab that can set in and lock in so the rudder can't move. It's an old style way of doing things on a boat that balances well. And then when we want to shift back to hydraulic steering, we just undo that, lift this up here, and that needs to be oiled. And then this can move above our heads when we're sitting at the helm.
And when you're steering with the tiller and you don't want it to lock in?
Yeah, oh, yes, of course we can pull this back. Get rid of the tab.
And it just slides over the high point.
Yeah, and then it moves that way without locking in. This awning is a port awning, only to be used. We can't have it up when we're sailing because it would interfere with the sheets and the sail. But it's big and easy to put up and take down with tied to the rigging, to the mast, and aft, and into the boom at several places. But it makes it habitable out here, very in the sun. It's very gives a lot of shade. It also collects a lot of water, and it's been doing it for a long time without being washed. See how dirty it is. But we have 4 collection points into 4 different jugs, and you can fill a 5-gallon jug in no time with a little bit of rain. So it's very nice. We use that water for wash water primarily. This is served wire rigging, and it's I also did wire seizings down here, which are the same as a regular seizing, but done with wire instead of rope. And they of course have a much higher braking strength. You put a lot of tension on to grab these. That's the way they were done. The nice thing about them is that the rigging wire, is reusable underneath them. They can be removed and adjusted, say, if we needed to, because the wire broke somewhere, we have extra length right here. But also they were fun to do, to learn how to do. Lanyards and dead eyes instead of turnbuckles. Give a little more flex, and you can do it yourself. Pin rails for all your halyards, keeps them off the mast. Ding, 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 ding. Kind of nice. I made all my blocks out of wood. This is black locust. Originally they were varnished, but that's too much work. We just hit them with slush, linseed oil, and pine tar every time we do the rigging. carved out of a block of wood. Shivs are made, I made them out of Delrin, and on a stainless steel pin. I worked metal. I could have stropped them in metal, either bronze or steel, but I decided to do rope stropped blocks because you can work rope at sea. I could make another one while I'm going. This is a grommet that's turned up, one piece of rope, one strand of a 3-strand rope, 3 times as long as you're turned back into itself, makes a loop with a very, very neat tuck. It's not a bulky splice. It's only 2 strands that are woven in instead of 6. Tensioned really tightly and then put on the seizings. Anchors, made my anchors. That's Thomas Colvin design anchor, about 65 pounds. This style or any fisherman style anchor is easily handleable with cat heads. And these are cat heads. And what it allows you to do is to get the thing above and over the side without trying to drag it up over, which a big bulky anchor, the old style anchors, don't come up too easily. So we pull it up normally. I loop this rope under, we pull it over here, pull it up here, and then we can just pull it up on deck. Let's see, these are really nice. I saw those in a book somewhere. But when you're pulling up your anchor, I use line with 30 feet of chain. And when I get to that 30 feet of chain and can get it into the hook, when I'm pulling myself forward, then the boat moves up and down and pulls the anchor up and out. And I can take one link if that's all the wave will give me. If it'll give me a foot, I can take a foot, but I'm not having to break the anchor out. The boat's doing it. Once it's out, pull it up and it's done. Then we also have the windlass, which is self-explanatory, about as simple as it comes. I bought these online somewhere, came with those. The rest of it I had to make, but I liked it. I like this kind of a simple windlass because I can make it. I made it, right? So I can fix it. Doesn't require proprietary parts. And then our little hang in the rigging windmill wind generator that I rebuilt. It got given to me, frozen up solid. Opened it up, cleaned it out, put in some new parts, and it works. Doesn't give us much power, but it a little bit helps. We have our sail covers on, but the junk rig, as you can see, comes up in front of the mast. It gets away with being a flat sail because there's no mast sitting right in front of it to cause turbulence. This sail, when it's up, the leading edge is the rope sewn to the edge of the sail. And so the wind's either on one side of it or the other. It doesn't luff. It never luffs. It can go from one side to the other, but it doesn't go flap, 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 luffing like a regular sail does, because the other sails have a belly sewn into them to get it from behind the mast to create a sort of wing effect, which is unnecessary if you don't have that mast right in front. But it takes some getting used to sailing. The sail can draw and keep trying to draw, be full and keep trying to draw when the hull is stalled. So you have to be very careful not to pinch the boat too tight to the wind. I saw in a book one time about a hatch design, and we built it into the forehatch also, that has gutters. So that when this is closed, you can see there is the regular combing that it has to get up and around. But if water does squirt in here, it goes into this gutter and then drains out here. So it's for non-sealing hatches, it does an excellent job of keeping the water out. And of course, when we're underway, we have a fabric hatch cover that goes over the top of everything. A little aluminum work. scrap aluminum. Good ventilation. Clark's stuck. You can turn a fan on if you want. They're right behind you, or the other side.
That's all right.
Okay. But they're really nice to be able to let a lot of airflow through the boat when we're not here. Little project. We also have drop boards that go in there, but then we also have these guys. So that's a start for the outside. Meredith will show you the inside.
Welcome to our teeny tiny house, the belly of our dolphin. As you come down the stairs, you come into the salon. We could basically see it all from here. This seating area also doubles as a berth. Eventually the seat will go down and this will be a double berth here. Up here is our pilot berth, which is nice and snug full of stuff right now. But if we needed to, we could shift all of that stuff into the V berth and use it underway if we needed to. We have full storage under this, these seats here, and under this seat that Clark is sitting on with the camera, we have a little bit of storage, water tank, and our water maker, which we'll check out later. Conrad recently put our fishing poles up here. They fit perfect in our little lounge area also. So as you can see, just like any teeny tiny house, each space triples, quadruples for all kinds of different purposes. So as we come into the kitchen, I can mention that here is our diesel stove, which we mostly use up north because it's way too hot down here in the tropics. But we do use it when we're canning, and we just did a bunch of canning to get ready for our trip. So it's awesome. But in the meantime, when we're in the tropics, we use this little alcohol stove that usually mounts right up here when we're underway, and it gimbals. So, and it has sides that go on it. Conrad added these wood cabinets that are the perfect size for mason jars and other goodies. He also added this refrigerator, which is a very narrow, small, but very effective and efficient refrigerator. There were small sinks that he changed into deep double sink, which is awesome for cleaning dishes, but also underway we can stash stuff in here and it's not going to go flying. So it's a nice, it was a really nice addition, and it cut into the counter space a little bit, but we find we don't miss it because we have other options. So maybe a little less kitchen storage than some other boats, but we make do with hanging baskets and under the seat storage. But that's another reason why this was such a good addition, the cabinets here. So this is our water setup for our kitchen. We have a soda keg that we're using for our water. I think Conrad showed you outside that we have those for water and diesel. So we have the one designated for inside that's hooked up to a sink sprayer, and an air hose that's hooked up to a bicycle pump. So we pump her up. And have a little pressure for our dishes, and also we take this upstairs and use it for a shower. Pretty nice. We have also our wash water tank here if we wanted to pump it up or pump it out from our tank, and our drinking water right here. And we also, like most boats, have our seawater foot pump, which is super handy for not having to touch anything with dirty hands and giving everything a fresh rinse. And yeah, pretty nice. Pretty nice, pretty cozy. It's snug here, which is, you wouldn't necessarily think is nice, but for underway, you're secure. You're good to go. You're not flying around. There may be things I forget that go flying, but I'm not going to go flying. I'm snug, so there you go. We have our hanging locker here for our foul weather gear. And yeah, I think that's the kitchen. As you come forward a little bit more, you'll step through the head. In this design, the head goes right into the V-berth. So this is our head in V-berth and closet space. Actually, that's our shower curtain, but we don't take showers inside because we don't like water inside. We take it outside. We added a composting head instead of the traditional, and we find that it works very nicely for us. So we just have to make sure we get sawdust, which is pretty easy to get in most places, and yeah, we love it. Our V-berth is, yes, for sleeping, but also for wood and metal storage. You will see we get nice flow from the scoop that we made, that Conrad sewed up down our forward hatch here and through our windows. So our chart table is this cool flip down section. That actually most of our charts are under there. But yeah, we can sit here, do our charting, and then stash it away. And this is our chart cabinet right under here. So charts and other doodads for charting. Our computer is a Toughbook, military grade, that is water resistant, super handy, and we got it from Clark and Emily. We use it back here for our weather information, getting it over our single sideband, and I use it just like you would any other handy-dandy computer for my photos and creative projects and stuff like that. So, super nice. A little old school, but we like it that way, obviously. Really good.
Tell us about your water maker. It's not the standard thing.
No.
And if you guys want to know how to make the cheapest possible functioning water maker, listen up.
The Navy and Army both use PUR 35s, per 35 hand crank water makers. When boats started getting water makers, that was the water maker that was on most boats in the early days. It had, in addition to the hand crank, it had a motor that went on there. They had some problems with the housing cracking, sometimes with the motor, not too often. They still are very good use. So they redesigned it to be a metal unit, which is still sold today, called the PUR 40. But the hand crank ones, because the Navy and Army have them, they just replace them every few years.
It's required for them to replace them, yeah.
They're available on the used market for $300, somewhere in there.
And most of them never used, right?
Yes, never used. The membrane may need to be replaced. Mine was fine, and that's another $300.
So you hand crank all your water, hand pump all your water?
No, I got to thinking that hand crank has guides in it, and the guides keep the plunger in line. Unlike the motor that went on there and had a circular thing, torqued the living daylights out of it. So I thought, why not just hook a windshield wiper motor to it? So I have a windshield wiper motor that cranks.
For a big truck, right?
That cranks. Yeah, I got the second biggest one that's commonly available because the biggest one was a little too expensive. But it still was like $70 or something, you know. So then I made a linkage and a mount and cut the handle off so it would fit inside a space. I have the handle with a stud in it in the ditch kit. I has 2 screws and a pen, and then knife the hoses, and I can walk away with that thing.
So for $400, basically, you've built something that can turn on a switch and make water for you.
Yeah, 4 to 6.
And if you needed to, you can very quickly throw it in the escape boat and have water making that way too.
Yes, that's the idea. And
that's probably the cheapest water maker I've seen, and it's new gear.
And it's what I wanted. I wanted, it makes about 1.5 gallons an hour, a little less on the specs, but we came out at 1.5 gallons an hour. And that's, to me, is perfect for a water maker. I wouldn't want one that made any more because we wouldn't use it every day. And using it every day keeps it, keeps stuff from growing in it. And so a couple of hours a day at about 3.5 amps, I mean, it's by the time the batteries are charged, we've got excess solar, so it's just
Perfect way
it's
to
just
utilize our
perfect.
solar.
Yeah.
Yeah, our excess solar.
Free power.
Yep.
Well, speaking of power, that's probably the one part of this boat that isn't old-fashioned.
Power.
Yes.
Ah, yes, we have lithium and lead. Yes.
And solar panels.
And solar panels.
panels,
This is right. And a little wind generator that can double as a
Wind and water
as a
generator.
water tow generator.
Yeah.
When it sits in its little ring back there, which we'll get to test out shortly.
Yeah.
Haven't tried the water, but yet.
All the testing of the BBMS happened on this boat. Conrad oversaw all the testing, and I'm a big fan that the engineer shouldn't do testing because I will only test what I think could fail. And Conrad tested everything.
Oh my goodness. Many hours. It was very good. It was a great combination. It
And
was
he
very
directed
good.
the project into what became the BBMS Plus with all the protections from low current overcharge and everything. This is Conrad's idea. He did a lot of research.
Yes, and it feels
These
great.
brains together,
Feels great.
boy.
Well, I just didn't want to jump into lithium until I knew there was a safe way to charge them.
Yeah, seriously, he didn't have any lithium until we built the device.
And when I was watching them for 15 years or whatever, very closely, and like, why would you do it if there's a and why would you do it? Wait, chance losing that money and all that power and your boat maybe. No, it was wonderful when Clark started saying, "Oh yeah, I think I can do that. Sure. Why would you want to do that? Well, this is why I want to do that.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. Great combination.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, it was great for me.
Yeah.
Yay.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
It was great to have somebody to share the project with because usually my projects have to happen right between my ears and nobody wants to hear about it. But that's art. It's art for a Conrad and me.
Yeah,
totally.
Oh yeah, to get into it. Like, wait, no. Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah.
It was entertaining listening to y'all. For sure.
This particular boat keeps us busy in ways that are very satisfying as far as accomplishments go. We're always thinking of new things or better ways to do things and attacking them, and it seems to keep us busy.
And she's pretty. She's so pretty.
It's pretty. I imagine a lot of people will comment and say, "Wow, look at that boat." You know, people come up to you a lot and ask you questions about the boat.
Oh yes.
They do.
Yes.
They do.
Yeah, we get a lot of people, a lot of gawkers, which is nice.
And kids that are like, pirate boat!
Pirates, yeah.
Which is great.
Someone once said, I think it was in the Sea of Cortez at the time, they kind of analyzed their life and they said, sailing is just the right amount of stress. If it was less, we would all be bored and just turn into like marshmallows. and it's the right kind of stress. It's important stress. It's not stress about employment and keeping some boss happy. It's stress about not dragging your anchor.
Yes.
Or
not dying.
Yeah. So when the stresses happen, they absolutely feel valid. You never feel afterwards like, why did I waste my time on that?
Yeah.
It's always valid.
Well, and that's another. That's another. When your daily existence and your chores are straightforward, and while it may be something so benign as, going ashore to find some food or water or whatever it is, it can also be, making it through a storm, but both are very satisfying. You can see your accomplishments very, very clearly. And
The lizard brain understands it.
Yeah.
And it's like you say, it's not a complicated existence. It's a satisfying and nice lifestyle.
So far, so good.